Welcome to Thrive on Plants. I'm Dr. Daphne Bascom, your guide on this journey to vibrant health through the power of plant-based living. Today, we have an incredibly inspiring guest, Jenné Claiborne, a vegan chef, author, and the radiant force behind the popular Sweet Potato Soul blog. In today's episode, Jenné will share the colorful world of her book, Vegan Vibes, a cookbook that's not just about recipes, but about a lifestyle that nourishes the soul. We'll dive deep into the art of crafting protein rich, plant based meals that cater especially to nourishing the mind, the body, and the spirit. Jenné, welcome to the Thrive on Plants podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to see you again.
I'm glad to see you too. And you just got back from the vegan cruise.
It was so much fun. I was just working on a video that I'm going to release, sharing my
Oh,
experience on it. This is our second
good.
one going. And it was just so relaxing. It's really fun to also connect with, my community on the cruise. So many people told me they saw my first video from 2024 and decided to join this time. So
Oh,
it was like a
good.
whole party. There were so many people who I'd, known from emailing back and forth with each other or Instagram, even YouTube comments. It was really fun.
Were you teaching on the cruise or were you
Yeah.
just there? Okay.
Yes, I
Cooking?
taught 3 cooking classes. Yeah. And I also did a book signing for the new cookbook, Vegan Vibes. It was great. And my daughter is in the new cookbook. I don't share her on
No.
social media or the internet, but she's in the cookbook. So she was there signing cookbooks as well.
Oh my gosh.
She had her little pen and her name. It was so cute.
Renee, I have followed you for Baby J, I almost feel like we're part of your family because
Oh,
we've watched her grow up.
yes.
Um, so I've watched you, and I would love to, I'd love to start by just hearing a little bit about you. You took a step back from the spotlight a couple years ago.
That's
So I
it.
have your book here, Sweet Potato Soul. That's,
Yeah.
when you launched Potato Soul, that's
Yeah.
how I got to know you. And then we all got to know Baby J. But then you took some time away.
Yes.
And what was the impetus for that? And then what brought you back with such energy that you wrote Vegan Vibes?
Yeah. Well, okay. So living in, let's see, when I started Sweet Potato Soul, I lived in New York in Harlem and I was really young. It was when I
You're
first,
still
first,
young.
first started it. Thank you. When I first started it way back in 2010, it was just a hobby. I had no intention to ever make it a career because nobody was doing that. I mean, there are maybe 4 people on the planet who were doing a blog as a career. It wasn't a clear path to making money. It was just for fun. It was a way to create community and share what you were cooking in the kitchen. It was a pure hobby. And likewise with my YouTube channel, same. But yeah, back then it was very much for fun. And then eventually it took off around the time that I got my first cookbook deal in 2016. And you know, by the time my daughter was born in 2019, I had built something where, like, my original goal for Sweet Potato Soul, but just for my life and career in general, has always been to help other people discover this way of living, which to me has given me so much freedom and, great health and energy and clarity of mind, clarity of purpose. And I wanted to help other people find that. And it also brought me a level of success that when my daughter was born, I was able to take off from work for 4 months. And, this financial freedom that I knew I always wanted, but it wasn't like part of the original plan. So basically, my daughter was born in 2019. I took off for a few months then. I came back pretty strong. People were super interested in baby J and how was my vegan pregnancy and home birth and all these things. But shortly after that, her father and I separated. And then we ended up moving here to Atlanta, which is my hometown, and which has been a dream. I love it. I mean, it's great
You're
for I love living here because I'm from here, but it's also an amazing place. With the part of town we live in is like a small town. It's so like quaint and walkable. And her father and I are like movie, like storybook co-parents. Like we have like the best co-parenting relationship.
Oh,
I
that's
thank God
great.
every day, all day, because we've come such a long way. But in that process of moving here, of separating, of eventually getting a divorce, of moving across the country, becoming a single mother, um, all of these humongous shifts in my life, I was like, I need a break. I need a
Yes.
break. And part of this lifestyle that I've built, like I said, I really want to help people, but I've also like been able to develop like financial freedom, not
Mhm.
completely, like I'm not like I wouldn't retire today, but I always think of my life as like, I try to focus on like the positive stuff, like not so much, oh, I need to do this. I need this. I need more of this. I need more of that. Instead, in that period of huge shifts for me, I was like, I need a break and I have the resources to take that break, If I step away right now, what's the worst that could happen? Everybody could forget about me because I went away from YouTube for like 18 months.
You
Everybody
did?
could forget
Yeah.
about me. However, I now am at the place in my life and in my career and as Jenné that I know that I could rebuild. Whether it be the same thing, it might not be the exact same thing. It could be something completely different. But I had gotten to that point where I really do trust that I can always come back. And that means that I can always take a break and I can always take time for myself and my family because that ultimately is my biggest value, family and, my daughter and, now living close to my parents. We're all, So yeah, that's why I took my break and took it with, such took such a long break and and took it with a lot of chill, like I even like during that time I renovated this house. I bought this house when we first moved here and I took like, you know, months to renovate it. We had to move out, but it was cool because I didn't need to use the kitchen as I wasn't filming, right?
Right.
I just
Exactly.
was able to really step away, take time. And my daughter, she didn't have to like go to daycare or anything. I was able to be here at home. And if it wasn't me or her father taking care of her, my family, my grandmother was taking care of her. And I really just leaned in to that as out of really a place of like gratitude and abundance because I really feel like God gave me this life and I'm going to be grateful and I'm going to make the most of it. And now I'm back.
And Janae, first of all, kudos to you because I
Thank
think,
you.
so many times we're afraid to step away for all the reasons you said,
Yes.
whether we don't have the financial means, whether we're afraid that what are we going to come back to?
Right.
Is everyone going to forget about me? But you came back strong. And I almost feel like there's a different energy to you now. Maybe that's what the genesis of Vegan Vibes was. But
Hmm.
I've seen the maturity, I've seen the shift to really focusing on health, nutrition, wellness. Was that a byproduct of you taking that time for yourself
Yeah.
and seeing why it was important?
Yes, you're right. I mean, taking that time gave me so much clarity. And I wasn't sitting home just like with the baby or anything. I was
Right.
doing so many things. But in that pursuit of all these other things, like I'm telling you, random. I love hobbies, right?
Uh-huh.
One of my hobbies became real estate investing, which didn't go right. It went very wrong. Okay.
Okay.
It was like a disaster. It wasn't a disaster, but it was terrible. It was very difficult. Okay. I had a lot of struggles in that time that I was taking a break. And I also want to reiterate, like, or just say, like making the decision to take 18 months off of the YouTube channel, which was like my main consistent form of income.
Mhm.
I did it out of a place of faith, but it wasn't easy. It was really hard.
No,
Okay.
it's
But
never.
as I
Yeah.
think I forgot to say that.
Yeah. Nope.
But I just did so many random, difficult things and fun things also in that time off. And it really helped me find clarity of purpose. What do I actually want to do? What is actually like, what are my actual skills? What am I actually good at? What really lights me up? How do I want to spend my time? Um, how much money do I want to make?
Mhm.
Like, do I want to stay in this little teeny tiny house? Some people it's like 1,600 square feet. So compared to like where my parents live, this is tiny. Or do I want to like make a lot of money and get a big mansion someday? Like clarity, right? And then I came back to like, okay, I love connecting with my audience via camera, so on YouTube. That's great.
Uh-huh.
I love taking photos. So doing the blog, I'd had that blog, I've had my blog since 2010. I did not post
Wow.
consistently on the blog until last March. March 2024 was when I made a full commitment. I'm posting 3 times a week. I've taken off like one
That's a
week out of
lot.
that entire year when I
That's a
was on
lot.
the cruise last week or 2 weeks ago. But yes, I was like, well, I love photography. I see the potential in the blog and, all it just all became clear. I don't want to be a real estate investor. I don't want to do TikTok. I don't want to like work so hard to like afford that mansion. Like I want to be able to have a lifestyle where I kind of feel like halfway retired. Like that's what I'm going for. I'm not like, there's struggles. Sometimes I'm like working, you know, it feels like 24 hours in a day, hardly get any sleep in. But then there's other times that I'm able to take a 7-day vegan cruise and, get paid to work, right? So it's that time off gave me a lot of clarity, and I'm constantly like trying to, I'm shifting and seeing what works and what doesn't work,
Mhm.
and recognizing that I don't have to hold so tight to things,
You're embracing change,
embracing change.
which is
Yes.
scary. Yeah.
Yes. And then, you mentioned the health and vegan vibes, the cookbook, me leaning more into health and wellness. That came out of that for sure, because I've always been the beginning of my journey before starting Sweet Potato Soul was this desire to be healthier, to be able to eat whatever I wanted because I love food, be able to eat whatever I wanted, no guilt. There must be a way. There needs to be a natural way of living that's easy, and that I don't have to think deeply about it, and I can feel my best, look my best. And so I basically came right back to that. And in part of the finding hobbies and doing different things while I was on my time away, I did get way more into yoga. I started
Mhm.
practicing yoga in 2008. Um, and I've never stopped my practice, but I basically took my practice to the next level spiritually and physically. And then likewise, not in that break, but recently, like a year ago, I also started playing tennis.
I
So
saw
now
that.
now I'm an athlete. So now I got
You've
to
always been an athlete.
thank you, thank you. But yeah, like I think I've definitely started looking at and embracing health and wellness, taking it a little bit more seriously. Also, when I was pregnant with my daughter, that I think was the first move back to that, because I was making a lot of videos and sharing content around what do I eat as a
Mhm.
pregnant vegan. And to me, it was so fun. Like that I will never get tired of talking about eating and nutrition and optimizing health and feeling good. Like even if I'm like, because well, that goes back to my original goal. What my original like mission has never been to have a YouTube channel or to have a blog or to write cookbooks. My mission has always just been to help people through to eat better and to live better and to be their best selves, right? I used to have a like elevator pitch. I can't remember what it is anymore. But it was basically that. So yeah, I just however I can get there, I'm happy.
Eh, And it's funny because I mean, when you're talking about your elevator pitch and the fact that you're a yogi, there's a quote from your book that really stuck with me. And I think it aligns it to me, it kind of revealed where you are. And
Mm,
I'd love to hear what you were thinking when you wrote this. It's you are what you eat. So the best way to start feeling your best and raising your vibration is to eat foods that support the proper functioning of your body and mind.
yes.
That was powerful. And
Thank you.
so, what does raising your vibration mean for you in terms of your daily life? And then, how does it relate to the vibration that you get from fueling your body with the right foods?
Yes. Well, first, it always starts with gratitude. It's a cookbook, so I'm focusing on food. But, in my actual day-to-day life and practice, it starts with spirituality and gratitude. So number one, right? And then for me, like I said before, like looking at life and approaching life from a place of abundance, which I try to highlight in that. I'm trying to like make all these spiritual concepts like raising a vibration, gratitude,
Mhm.
abundance in the cookbook. I'm trying to like tie it in with food.
Yeah,
But yes,
you
so I'm
did a good
living my
job.
life spiritually and with gratitude and connection to, God and, source, but then living with abundance. And I think that's the first step because so many of us are using food and our lifestyles to cover something else up, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds great to like pick up the vegan cookbook and make all the healthy food and it's going to change your life, you're going to lose weight, you're going to have more energy, whatever. That's great, but I like, from my experience, I used to be a health coach working one-on-one with people. In my experience and in my my personal life, real change will not actually happen and stick long term if you don't actually change your that emotional connection with food and your lifestyle and your outlook on life and your mindset. It all begins there. So yeah, that line, I think I'm just trying to like pull in my spiritual, way of looking at the world and bring it into nutrition. But maybe I should have written more about that in the cookbook because that's where I come from. And I think that is where we all need to come from if we want to see long lasting change, heal the issues that we have inside, address the anxiety that so many of us have, whether it be about our life or things happening in the world, or even a lot of times with food. And then we can start to, see these lifestyle changes actually stick.
And I mean, to your credit, I get this, I get those feelings from reading. I mean, for
Okay.
anyone who reads the first part of your book, not just go right to the recipes, you can feel that thread.
Okay, good.
Um, and your message around healing your relationship with food, which I do think many people don't have the best relationship with food. And I agree with you. One of the things that we have a structure within our coaching program, we call it the plant powered blueprint. Mindset is first,
Hmm.
because if you can't change mindset, if you can't change, how you're looking at the world, it's hard to make all those other changes stick. Uh,
That's
so
right.
completely aligned with everything that you're writing, and the vibes are there. And it's interesting because the uh, you also talk about a plant-based plate.
Yeah.
And I just finished a challenge. I actually talked about the plant-based energy plate. But when you're encouraging anyone who's picked up your book or people that you talk to in terms of how do you fuel for energy, or how do you fuel to support that level of vibration that's positive, what does that plant-based plate look like to you?
Hmm.
And then with that plate, you also mentioned the 80-20 rule.
Okay, so for my ideal plant-based plate, I always tell people to think of a rainbow, right? It's got to be colorful. And your meals don't actually have to be very colorful day to day. Like every meal doesn't need to look like a rainbow, but it's a good starting place to envision, like if you're unsure of, what you should be eating, to think about colors. So, for example, if you made let's see. I just like yesterday on Instagram, I posted this recipe for this black bean corn salad, right? So when I'm
Yum.
creating recipes and when I'm eating, I'm like, okay, let's say the corn salad. It's got beans, it's got corn. Those are two beautiful colors because the colors of these plants, these foods, are indicative of their nutritional value, right? Like black beans, the black is the anthocyanins, which is a really potent antioxidant. And then, put the cilantro in there. And then I'm going to put peppers. I'm going to use red peppers because they're bright and pretty. You could use any color. And I really think like that. And then when I go to actually eat the meal, I probably wouldn't just eat a bowl of the corn salad by itself. So I'd put it with rice and maybe some tofu that's been cooked with like a marinade that makes it like a nice rich red color or just something. I'm trying to always make my food colorful. But I also recommend for it might be even easier for people to think about like this plate method, the plate method where 50% of your plate is non-starchy vegetable. So it could be
Mhm.
kale, broccoli, cauliflower, whatever. Um, it can be a blend of those things, right? You don't have to choose one. It could be a blend, but 50% of that plate is a non-starchy vegetable or a combination of some. And then a quarter of that plate is a plant-based protein, could be any, could be a mix. And then the remaining quarter is a starchy vegetable or whole grain, which are starches. So brown rice, black rice, red rice, sweet potatoes, um, butternut squash, or a combination of all of those
Yeah.
things. And then you can add a little bit more color on top. So I'll usually do a like a avocado, slice of avocado, guacamole, tahini sauce,
Mhm.
put some seeds and nuts on it to add more crunch, and maybe finish it off with a little bit of sauerkraut or kimchi for my healthy, good bacteria. But I that's another really easy way to build a plate. Either think of a rainbow or use the plate method.
And I mean, what you just described is important too, because people eat with their eyes first.
Yes.
And I
Gotta
think
look good.
yeah, a lot of times people feel whether you're plant-based or vegan, it looks plain, but it really should look exactly the picture you just described, the blues, the blacks, the yellows, the
Yeah.
greens, the reds. It doesn't have to look beautiful every day,
Right.
but that plate concept, it's a simple one to think about when you're doing, looking at your meal for the day. Is half my plate those cruciferous vegetables, the greens, the reds, get my tofu, start my protein. And I'd
Mhm,
love
mhm.
to,
Yeah, you talked about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about protein
Yeah.
because the P word, protein,
Keyword.
fiber, and fat are definitely keywords for 2025.
Oh, yes.
But when it comes to women, and you're a tennis player, you're a yogi, I see those muscles popping on your biceps. You're obvious. Yep, we got guns. Guns are good.
Got guns.
How do you, that quarter of your plate that is
Yeah.
protein, do you prioritize that? And
Yeah.
then you've been doing some great videos on how you get more than 80 grams of protein a day, which I think some women struggle with.
Yeah. So the reason I started making those videos is I wanted to prove that it was possible, right? Without trying like super hard to make it happen. You know what I mean? Without being like, "Oh, I got to figure this out. I need to do protein shakes and I need to do, only eat high protein meals. I can't eat any, whatever. I wanted to prove it, but at the same time, when I made the first video, I wasn't totally sure. I wanted to make it authentic, so I just ate and I calculated. I ate normal food, like I ate what I always eat every day. And it just turned out that indeed I do eat over 80 grams of protein a day. There's a couple things I always tell people though, like depending on your activity level, you might need more, you might need
Exactly.
less, depending on your hunger. And then the other thing I always tell people is if you are eating, and I try to prove in those videos, that if you're eating a wholesome plant-based diet where you're really focusing on, like we described, that plate method, eating loads of vegetables and whole greens and, these vegan proteins, then it isn't that difficult. I don't do protein powders. I don't like protein powders. And I don't have any difficult time getting enough protein. And then the next thing would be to make sure, you can look at your meals and your snacks and try to optimize it even better. Like, for example, for my snacks, when I get home from yoga and tennis, in tennis, I usually just take it in the car with me. Not every time, but let's say 4 days out of the week, I will have edamame right when I
Yeah.
come back because I love. I know there's a different nutrition science, like what to eat before exercise, what to eat after. There's scientists as a whole, it's a whole field, but I follow what works best for me, and I
Exactly.
know that I have such satisfaction if I eat a nice protein snack after I exercise. So, and that is edamame 99% of the time because it is so easy. I buy frozen edamame, which are, for people who don't know, just soybeans in the pod. That's it. Buy it at Costco. and you boil it for like 5 to 7 minutes, and then just eat the beans out of the pod. That's it. Put
Yum.
salt on it, and
Yep.
that's it. But there you go. Like, I can't remember off the top of my head how much protein like those little bags I have are, but it's something like, I don't remember. I want to say like 12 grams of protein for those little bags, and then another high protein snack, because snacks are a good way to optimize, because I think a lot of people they'll be like, I'm gonna have a salad for lunch. I'm gonna have like oatmeal with flaxseed and walnuts for breakfast. Great, it's got protein. But then you fall off on the snacks. You might not
Mhm.
have a snack, you might not be hungry, or you might choose something junkier because you feel like you're eating so well throughout the day, but you really could be adding more protein and nutrition, taking advantage of that by optimizing the snacks. So edamame is my favorite. Another favorite is Ezekiel bread toast. I love Ezekiel bread. One slice, I think, has 10 grams of protein. And I put, almond butter and jam on top, or I'll do avocado on top.
Uh-huh.
I love it. It's simple. It's like, I mean, it's even easier than Ezekiel because you don't have to boil water, you just have to
Right.
toast it in the toaster oven. Um, but yeah, and for people who do like smoothies though, you can use protein powder. Like, there's nothing wrong with protein powder. I just, for myself, I don't really love how they taste. They're very expensive, and I do just generally I like to eat is if
Whole
I
food.
can eat all wholesome, like minimally processed food, that is what I prefer. However, you could also up the protein in a basic smoothie without a protein powder by adding almond butter or any nut butter, peanut butter. Hemp seeds are
Hmm.
super high. It's a complete protein. Using soy milk, especially these, I buy the soy milk at Trader Joe's. It's got soybeans and water. That's it.
Uh-huh.
No natural
Oh,
flavors, no
yeah.
nothing, no sugar, no nothing. Organic soybeans. Use the soy milk. That 1 cup of soy milk, I think, is 8 grams of protein. And
Yep.
do that instead of water, right? In your smoothie. Add I had another. So I said the hemp seeds, flax seeds, nut butters, soy milk. Vegetables have a little bit of protein in them, but you're going to also get more fiber. And there's little ways that you can optimize your protein intake in a wholesome way without having to invest in powders and such. And before you ask me about the 80/20, or I'm more like 90/10. But what that is like 80% of the time, no less than 80% of the time, I recommend that people focus on eating wholesome, minimally processed foods. So basically, foods that you can prepare at home, or you did prepare at home, or foods that, if you wanted to, usually I'm talking about foods that you do prepare at home, but ingredients like tofu or
Hmm.
tempeh or soy milk that if you wanted to, you could prepare at home. You
Right.
do not need a laboratory or factory to make it. And so no less than 80% of the time, we should be eating these wholesome, nutrient-dense foods, and then reserve the highly processed, ultra processed foods and alcohol for no more than 20% of the time. That way, you don't have to have cheat days, and you don't have to, feel like you're restricting yourself. But, maybe you eat really healthy all day, and you have, your little chocolate. Some people have a glass of wine. At night, or go out to eat a couple times a week. But throughout the rest of the week, you're on point. Like, you don't have to worry, because the thing about eating healthy, and the reason a plant-based diet is not a diet, like a weight loss diet, is you're eating nutrient dense foods that, like I said before, or like you read that line, you are what you eat. You're giving your body not just the fuel it needs for the day, but the nutrients it needs to be healthy, to aid in detoxification. So when you do eat, less than nutritious foods, or alcohol, or are in a smoky environment, whatever, your body is able to be as optimized as possible. The healthy food is not just for so you can be thin, or so you can have energy and you can lift more weights. It is to keep you healthy and to offset the negative effects of everything else we encounter. just being human, right? So that's my 80/10. I'm like I said, I do like 90/10, or so that's my 80/10. I do like 90/10. Some weeks I do 95/5. I never do like 80/20 anymore, just because I don't really like eating out that often.
Yeah.
I love to cook at home. This is my job. I don't drink alcohol very often, very seldom. I don't have a sweet tooth. I used to. I don't anymore because this way of eating, you kind of lose, like, yeah, I still like sweets, but I've basically lost all of my cravings,
Hmm.
because I eat
Hmm.
so clean and just like consistent. So yeah.
Your microbiome is happy.
Exactly, my microbiome is happy and it's not craving and asking for
Exactly.
gimme, gimme, gimme,
Yep.
nutrition, nutrition. Yeah.
And I mean, you were setting such a great example for Baby Day,
Yeah.
um,
Thank you.
because I look at our kids now, and I don't have children, but just seeing, having opportunity to work in settings like the Boys and Girls Club or seeing children, even walking around the airport, I just
Mm-hmm.
worry about how they are going to, how are we helping them be healthful by setting a
Right.
good example by what we help them put in their bodies.
Right. It's actually scary. It's disappointing. That's one area that I feel almost overwhelmed by. Uh, Powerless. I try to, I know how to like talk about what I eat and share, baby J and how I've raised her. But these children are essentially addicted to this ultra processed food. It's not so much as, and Americans in general, right? It's so difficult for you to be living a standard American, having a standard American diet, eating just all the stuff, and your kid is also addicted, you're addicted, and then you want to make a change, but you really need to change yourself from the inside out before you can ask your child to do so. And then it's an extra level of the fact that it's a child. It's even more difficult to ask them to go against the grain and do something totally different from their peers. My daughter is not like that because she's born vegan. She's always been vegan. Her mom, both parents are vegan. She really understands why we're vegan. And I think what I can see from her, she has a lot of pride of being vegan. She feels like makes her special, right? But yeah, if you're coming from a place of like, I'm trying to just turn it all around, 180 shift. Um, I, I know it can be done, of course, but I myself, I'm like, oh, I wish I could help more because I don't really know what people should do.
But you can help. I mean, we were talking about this book, Good Energy, before
Mm-hmm.
we got on the call. I mean, you have a voice. And I think I mean, it's one of the things that Dr. Casey Means talks about in the book. One, the importance of understanding what we put in our body. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing I've loved about your cookbooks is that you focus on whole foods
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that you can feel your body, you can be healthy, you can eat 90, 10, 80, 20, and but you can still incorporate the good things that if you have a sweet tooth,
Yeah.
you can do that too.
Holidays,
Yes.
grandma's cakes and cookies.
Cruises.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cruise, yes. Vacation. That is so true. And, speaking of her in general, so, lately we've seen, I think, potential positive shifts. They outlawed, what is it, the red number 40 from food or something. And so I feel like so I'll use an example from my life. My niece, she is almost 9 years old. She'll be 9 in June. This is my brother's daughter. Has a standard American diet, right?
Mhm.
And her mother and her father, he and I grew up eating the same food. So very clean also. We ate like standard American processed food. We've never had red meat, but we ate those foods, but as treats.
Uh-huh.
We
Right.
drank soda, we had Kool-Aid, we had cereal, but those are special treats, and we knew that this is a treat, right? We're not gonna, our parents wouldn't allow us to like, eat. frosted flakes every morning for breakfast. You have to have oatmeal, and then you can have some
Exactly.
frosted flakes
Yeah.
after. That's how we were raised. But anyway, so my niece is very, very picky, and we go to the grocery store, and she's like, shows me everything she wants, and I'm looking at the ingredients, my eyes popping out of my head. And I think one of the first steps that we need to do as a country is to remove all the extra, not necessary
Mhm.
toxins that are in the food supply, especially the foods that are marketed specifically to children. Because the children and their parents, like making a major shift to change your way you eat and your lifestyle. First off, I think a lot of people aren't at the place to want to do that right now, maybe don't have the bandwidth. And even for the people who are there, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
But at the very least, if we just cleaned up the foods that the kids are going to eat anyway, I think that would be the step in the right direction. And I don't know how that would affect, like, will they still be addicted to these foods? Are these things causing addiction to food? I don't know, but at least like it feels to me like removing, like, there's like flame retardants in some children's clothes, especially night clothes, which can are linked to adverse effects. It's like, okay, take the flame retardants out. The kids are still going to wear the nighties, the grandparents are still going to buy them, everybody's going to buy them. So take out the harmful chemical, but you can still sell your product, because so many people are not yet at the knowledge, right? That we are, that you are what you eat, you can make these changes. It's really not that difficult. You can
Mhm.
still be satisfied and you can feel so much better. Your life outcomes will be so much better if you prioritize your health, your eating, and your lifestyle. Like you will most likely have a better life if you do that. But like so many people, like in my family, are not there yet. So I'm like, if we just took out just the littlest thing, and then we go from there.
But I 100% agree. And the thing that we need to remember, we control what we put in our body. I mean, to the
Hmm.
extent that we can.
Yeah,
Definitely,
though,
I agree with you.
especially
If we,
food.
exactly,
Yes.
that is a choice. And it's not that, I mean, you can eat very inexpensively and eat primarily plant-based. So it can
You will
extend
probably save
across,
money. Yeah.
I would agree,
Yeah.
especially now. You're not
Especially
paying a
now.
dollar an egg.
I know they're always complaining, the meat eaters, and they're always complaining about the meat is expensive now, the eggs are expensive now. Like, you don't have to, the milk, complaining about the
Tofu
milk.
scramble.
You can make your own milk at home. You can do the tofu scramble. You can literally make your own, Just Egg, the liquid
Yeah.
product.
Uh-huh.
You can
You
make
can
it
make
at
that
home.
too. Yeah.
You can make with
Yeah.
like pumpkin seeds or mung
Yeah.
beans. Exactly. But that's why I'm so committed to and love health so much, because it is the one area that we do have control over. And it's not fair to the people, like, there's always this I always hear this discussion about, well, it's in the brain. Food is addictive. The people can't change. Because I don't want to say
Mm-mm.
that. I think some people
Mm-mm.
haven't gotten to the place of wanting to change. But it is not true, because that is, I think, disrespectful to all the millions of people who were completely addicted to whatever food, standard American diet, and have changed and
Yes.
have started eating healthier, whether they be plant-based or not. It can be done. It is that education. And it is, you're right. Like we do have power. I have a platform. And it is like, I there's a level of discipline and self-worth, and going back to what we were talking about before, it's that mental change. You have to be able to change your outlook and recognize that I am in power. Like, I don't have to buy this. I
Yeah.
can save money. Another new video that I actually have on my calendar coming up is how to save money, basically, like how much cheaper eating vegan can be
It
than
is.
regular standard American diet. Because I'm trying to, like, hello, knock on, wake up, you guys, you don't need those eggs. Those, $12 for a dozen eggs. It's
No,
unnecessary.
no, I made two big loaves of, I mean, for people that like seitan and can eat gluten,
Mm-hmm.
I made two big loaves of seitan last night. That'll feed
Mm-hmm.
me one out of one block of tofu, and a third in a cup of vital wheat gluten. I've got,
Ooh. And that's funny because These products, that's why this is part of why there's like a misconception that eating vegan is expensive, because when you go to the store and buy the seitan, it's like they've fancy
Correct.
package
Yeah.
and $8. Like I love those field roast sausages. I love those. But it's like one
They're
for four sausages, like $8.
expensive.
And I can go home with my bottle wheat gluten and I do my sausage with beans and the wheat gluten and I'll put like some vegetables in there and spices. How like the entire I'll make four for it's probably 75 cents a dollar
Yeah,
versus $8 at the store, but people see it at the store and they're like, oh my God, this is so expensive. But thank God for Google, because now we can go to the store and be like, I bet I can make this at home. Let me Google.
exactly. And you can add, I threw in some rice cauliflower, so you got a little fiber
Mm-hmm.
in there. Yeah. Don't know. No one knows it's
And your
vegan.
seitan?
Uh-huh.
That sounds so good.
Yeah.
I need to try that.
It's yummy. And
Mm,
it just, I mean, because rice cauliflower has no flavor, but
yes.
now you've got your protein, you got your fiber.
It makes it more moist, probably,
It
right?
does. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not
Oh,
quite as dry.
I like that idea a lot. I would love to try it.
I will be happy to share the recipe, but
Yeah.
you'll take it to the next level because I'm not a cook. I just if it's in the kitchen, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
let me give this a
Okay, send
try.
it to me. And by the way, also speaking of children, um, you can I have had good luck with my niece. I have multiple nieces, but I was just talking about one who's I'm even closer with. I have had success with them with products like, the vegan sausages and, store-bought chicken nuggets and stuff. They don't know the difference.
No. No.
So for a lot of the time for children, you can start to transition them. And I like that you mentioned adding that cauliflower. A big question that people ask me, especially here in the neighborhood, because they know how my daughter eats. People are constantly asking me, how do they get their children to eat more vegetables? They're not worried about going vegan. They don't want to be plant-based. At the very least, how can I get my kid to eat more vegetables? And I'm always saying like, I just got to add it to things. Like
Exactly.
Sunday, I made sweet potato biscuits. My daughter,
Love your sweet
she
potato
doesn't,
biscuit.
she don't even like sweet potatoes.
She doesn't?
No, sacrilege, I know. She does not like sweet potatoes. However, they're so nutritious, right? I make all sorts of stuff with sweet potatoes because she
Uh-huh.
loves them. Any child can be tricked. Just, our neighbor
Adult too.
is so freaking picky and she'll come over and I'll make smoothies. She apparently has never had a non just, a smoothie that had vegetables in it until
Uh-huh.
she started coming here. And I always put spinach or kale in our smoothies. She doesn't know. She thinks it's a blueberry banana smoothie. So cauliflower in your seitan, sweet potatoes in the biscuits, veggie burgers.
Yep.
I make these tofu nuggets, very easy. They taste like Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets. And my daughter's friends they've never had tofu. Like this always happens. I always make it when the children come over because it's easy and they love it and they think they're eating Chick-fil-A and they think my daughter's cool because it's a Chick-fil-A connection. They have never had tofu before this. No child has ever disliked my tofu nuggets,
Yep.
ever. There's a lot of ways.
You your point again is that it's a decision,
Yeah,
and it's how you communicate it. There's so many, I mean, we could have a conversation just around how we start to feed our youth. Um,
yes. So important.
it is. It is.
It is.
Before we wrap up, I would like to know because you have been reading Good Energy, do you have, so looking at you, everyone can see you're vibrant, you're energetic. Do you measure your health in any standard way? Because I know Dr. Means talks about whether
Right.
it's your blood work, your DEXA scan. How are you confirming that you are as healthy as you feel?
Right. Not really. I get my blood work done once
Yeah.
a year just because I have insurance and they do that for free. And I'll ask them to check for B12 and vitamin
Uh-huh.
D.
Yep.
And then obviously I reading that book, I'm only halfway through, but I did consider doing a continuous glucose monitor.
Mhm.
I've never had any issues with, glucose and even when I was pregnant, so when you're pregnant, they make you drink. I don't know if they still, yeah, I'm sure they still do it. They make you drink this like glucose drink so that they can test your how your body responds to it, because diabetes in pregnancy is horrible. It's super duper dangerous. I refuse to drink the drink because
Did you?
I don't drink stuff like that. I don't even drink soda. I don't know. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I think it's, I can't remember how many grams of sugar is in that beverage, plus artificial food dyes. It's like a red.
Yeah,
And in other countries, I think it's clear.
big red syrupy mess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but in the US, they put artificial colors. I'm pregnant. I'm not drinking that. All this sugar, no. And I actually had a home birth, and I worked with a midwife rather than I did go to Kaiser for like ultrasounds, and because I have the insurance,
Mhm.
you know, I didn't have to pay extra for it. But my whole everything else was the midwife. My midwife was like, Jenné, well, we have to do it. It's like part of her license, like she has to make sure they do it. She said, but if you don't drink it, you could also just, you know, do your
Check your finger
monitor your
stick.
glucose, yeah, by the
Yeah.
prick. Back then, I don't think we had the continuous glucose monitors that you wear.
Uh-huh.
And if they did, they were probably super expensive. But if I ever got pregnant again, then I would do that instead. And I, like I said, I did consider just out of curiosity. Reading that book makes me want to track more. But no, I don't. And basically the way I'm very intuitive, and the way that I track how I'm doing is how I feel. How I feel, do I have energy? Like a lot of I come from a very energetic family, okay? Um so but at the same time, I think when you are naturally energetic, you can misread the signals because you're
Mhm.
energetic anyway, right?
Mhm.
So I do try to pay attention and, like, you know how I eat. Um, but yeah, it's basically me intuiting how well I'm doing.
You're checking your vibrations.
It's all the vibration, exactly. If I need to sleep more. And also because I'm a co-parent rather than like a, I guess, nuclear family situation, I gotta say, it is a blessing. I did not know it would be such a blessing, because when I need to sleep in, let's say the night before I didn't sleep so well, I'll just ask my ex. I'll be like, "Can she spend the night at your house tonight?" He's always going to say yes. He will
Yeah,
never say no. He has
that's
never said no.
that's beautiful. Yeah,
So I'm so blessed. I don't have to, my daughter has to get up at 6:30 to get to school. I
mhm,
don't have to do that every day.
that's great.
And there are some days when I feel like, oh, I need a lot of rest. I know that for sure. I don't need to track that. I need at least 8 hours of sleep. And
Great.
if I, like 2 nights ago, I only had 7. Last night, I had to go to bed a little earlier to make sure that I would get it all. But if, like, sometimes I'll just have him do it so that I can, like, sleep in, and maybe I have
That's
to work
okay.
late. Maybe I know I can't get the 8 hours unless I wake up at 8 a.m. So yes,
I
I'm very blessed.
I love that you get it. So 7 to 9 hours, sweet spot. Good
Yeah.
for you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's important. My mom tells me that I've always been very, like, since I was a baby, I was about that sleep. She
Good
said
for her.
it's part of my personality, apparently.
Well, she obviously did a great job. So
Thank you. Thank you.
before I let you go, I would love to wrap up with just some lightning round questions, whatever comes to mind. There's no
Okay.
right or wrong answer. It's just an opportunity for our community to get to know you a little better.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. What's your go-to comfort food when you've had a long day?
Chips and guacamole.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's one ingredient always in your fridge no matter what?
Ooh, miso.
Oh, good one. Your 15-minute dinner when you're exhausted, but you still want to nourish yourself and baby J.
Okay. My 10-minute lentil tacos. That's what I call them.
Oh, yes, I've seen that
So good.
recipe.
And you
Yeah.
top them with guacamole, of course.
And last thing, what's one thing you hope everyone who picks up vegan vibes will walk away with?
Inspiration to eat more plants, and trust that they can make a positive change through food in their life.
And you did a great job.
Thank you.
Jenné, thank you. It's been a pleasure reconnecting with you.
Yes.
And I know our community is going to love seeing what you're going to be doing next, I will share all of your social links, link to your book. But if anyone wants to connect with you, is there a great way to find you and follow you?
Yes,
That's
sweetpotatosoul.com.
what I
Hundreds of
figured.
recipes. You can find me there. My email's listed there as well.
Jenné, thank you. Thank you for joining us on Thrive on Plants. And I know that you will continue to thrive on plants and live with purpose.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you so much for tuning in today's episode of Thrive on Plants. It was an absolute pleasure to have Jenné Claiborne with us, sharing her passion and expertise in plant-based cooking. We covered a lot of topics, including debunking some common vegan myths, to detail advice on creating a perfect plant-based plate that supports our health through all stages of life. Jenné's personal stories and insights remind us that our food choices are not just about nourishment, but about joy and connection. If you've been inspired by today's conversation and you're curious to learn more about Jenné and her work, be sure to check out her book, Vegan Vibes, and to follow her on social media. We'll have the links to her website, to her blog, and to where you can purchase her books in the show notes. I'd also encourage you to share this episode with a friend who may need some inspiration on protein-rich, plant-based vibes in her life. And remember, every meal is an opportunity to bring vibrancy and health into our lives. Keep thriving on plants, and until next time, live with purpose and eat with joy. Take care. The content provided in this podcast is intended solely for informational and educational purposes. It's not designed to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. While I'm a doctor, I'm not your doctor. Always seek the guidance of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health, medical conditions, or treatments. Our goal is to provide accurate and up-to-date information. The discussions and views shared on this podcast reflect the opinions of the host and guest, and they may not align with your unique health needs. Decisions related to your health and wellness should be made in consultation with your healthcare team because they understand your specific circumstances. Thanks for joining us on this journey to thrive on plants, and I hope you enjoy the future episodes.